All right, Sydney, let's see. Sydney is coming on. Yay!
Hello.
Hi.
There we go.
I've been playing with filters, yes.
Your account filter. Let's see.
I mean, why not? They're there, So I can be in the middle of a vortex space-time continuum field.
Oh, these are all. Uh,
Whoa!
I'm gonna
Okay.
go with new filter.
Oh, so let's see. So far, we've got Santee Smith that is on the watching us, and you can play with your filters while we wait a few more minutes if you want. And she probably, I don't know if she's got to go, but Santee Smith is a wonderful, legendary dancer and choreographer who's also my mentor. So I hope I'll get to talk with her later. If you want to go live with me, Santee, let me know. And she's done, you should look her up and look her company up, Sydney. She's doing some, actually, they have a dance that partially takes place in a river.
Oh
Um,
wow.
so, yeah. Um, so yeah, you should look up their work, Kahawi Dance Company, and I'll send it to you later, is the
Cool.
name of the company. Yeah. So, ah, did you tell your roommates to watch us?
I didn't tell them to watch, but I asked for their advice and their thoughts yesterday about some of the topics we're going to discuss.
Oh, wow. You're so prepared. So I'm here looking at what you've sent me. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I don't know. So I think, let's see. I can never understand how many people are actually watching this. There's a little one, but I don't know if the one is you or if it's you and
Um,
someone else.
yeah, I don't know. Oh, I just clicked on the one and it says no viewers.
Okay.
So maybe it is me.
Mhm. Yeah,
Mm,
because Santi said enjoy, so I think that meant she had to go. But
okay.
we can wait a little, or we can just have, a conversation. And so what happens with these conversations is they are recorded, and we can just post it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So would you like to just go ahead and have a conversation then?
Sure, yeah. Let's
Yeah.
do it.
Okay. All right, well, I'll do my formal introduction. Nui dai dagudoa anigilonhi digiyanwi chigi duwagi nale galshkishki. My name is Maura Garcia. I am a dancer and a choreographer. I am an Indigenous woman. I am non-enrolled Cherokee and Mattamuskeet, and I come from the land, Occaneechi Saponi Homelands is where I was raised. They call that area Orange County, North Carolina also. And I am, interested in my work and in my life in, liberation of mind, body, and spirit from colonialism, the reclamation of indigenous ways as regards to our culture, our language, our feelings about ourselves, movement, body, and just the reconnection with the natural world for humans, because we have, regardless of our ethnicity, different degrees of losing that or have lost it. Um, so that's really what I guess I'm about and my work's about and things that I'm interested in. Um, as an artist who is had a lot of out of work time thanks to COVID, uh, and also just with being isolated, everyone being isolated during these times, I thought it would be nice to have little chats with people. One, for selfish reasons, because I would like to visit with my friends, but also, two, I've noticed that people um, feel more connected when they find other people connecting and when they're able to connect with them. And so I thought it would be great to have conversations with other Indigenous artists, with friends who are cultural activists, land activists, people involved in doing neat and interesting, beautiful things in the world. And so today we have Sydney here, and Sydney we met because we were neighbors, actually. And I was so lucky to have her as a neighbor because she's a wonderful human being. She is an activist. She is an artist, and she is really just dedicated to change in the world on many different types of levels. And so I will let Sydney introduce herself now.
Oh, that's really kind of you, Maura. You are a really awesome neighbor as well.
Oh,
So yeah, my name is Sydney. I am an aspiring cook and artist, and I am based in Lawrence, Kansas. Um, I would say that I have interest and passions in planting, herbalism, waste reduction, and alternative transportation, um, and other small interests. But I'm really excited to be here and talk with you today about censorship and maybe even touch on voting too.
thanks for that, because I forgot to say that. Yeah, what are we talking about today? Yeah, so um, we've just been kind of picking topics that were on our minds, and something that has been on my mind, um, and this is, we have Tucka Beast has come.
Oh, Tucker,
I
hey.
Oh, good. I'm glad you know them. I was like, Tucka Beast, who's that? um, yeah, so we've been having, topics uh, that are on our minds, and something that's been on my mind is censorship. And there's several reasons because of that. One um, is I have, typically before now worked in kind of the nonprofit field, nonprofit arts, which is a whole big structure within itself, and have been interested in doing work that is more sensual work or more erotic work, work that's, you know, also even some work that's not necessarily in the fine arts field, work that's more just actually music based, even music video type of work. And found myself, I struggled with my own self censorship of that. Uh, as I told someone, when I grew up, my grandma made us, we could not go to mass without a skirt, which had to be below the knees,
Totally.
which, yeah. And so I love my grandma and everything about her, but just that kind of mindset that I was doing something wrong, even though I didn't feel that way about other people, my own self-censorship kept me back from exploring those things or moving towards those things. And so finally, I did a topless mini shoot of it was like a selfie that I just posted on Instagram, and my hands were covering my breasts, so you couldn't see
Mhm.
anything. It was bigger than tops people wear.
Totally.
And I went through this like hour and a half long process of like, should I post it? Should I not post it? Should I post it? Should I not post it? And
Yes.
finally I got up the courage to do so. And I got this message from Instagram. You have posted inappropriate sexual material. We will shut you down. And not only am I completely covered, but I just find this notion that if you have women's breasts uh, with a little pasty over them, then that's okay, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But if you don't have a pasty, it's suddenly porno. I don't know what the hell that is, why men's nipples are okay. And when I got that censorship from Instagram, I really felt completely shut down, like, ugh, like really like it made me think, was something wrong with me? Have I done what have I done? And so it took me like a day to recover. So I finally went back and I put little flower pasties, even though it was already covered up.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I put the flower pasties and then I posted it. But I just wanted to, talk about that kind of all these types of censorship and, what happens. I think you said something here. Um, Censorship is a way to fit in and keep up in society. And you also talked about self-censoring. And it's interesting when you push back. Hi, everybody. I see Michael Carroll. I see Joby, and I think it is over here, and No Magic. I don't, but hello, everybody. Um, yes, there's lots of folks from my stomp ground, so that's nice, and from Stomp Dance World. Um, yeah, so that's that kind of censorship, both from self, from kind of oppression and colonization, and then from the actual thing itself is very interesting kind of thing. It's very strong. And I was just amazed. I was like, oh, you just try to push back a little and they like shut it down.
For sure, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's a 100% topic of discussion talking about men's nipples versus women's nipples, and how a part of the body, just like seeing it anywhere, like out of context of a bedroom, is like hypersexualized and just like, no, we can't do that, no. And
Yeah.
that's really like the problem to me, is just for a society that really like is hypersexual, it's like anything that is not within the bounds of like what is okay to be hypersexual and what's not, like talking about it and like bringing up sex all the time in like so many different types of conversations, versus like seeing a political ad or an artwork or photos or anything that's like pushing the boundaries, that's may or may not be outrightly sexual, you know. Yeah, I mean, talking with Matt last night, he made a really good point of just saying that, you know, sex is happening all around us all the time. Like plants are
Mhm.
having sex all the time, animals are having sex all the time, but we we abstract that. Like we are like so in our heads about it that we do not call it sex, and it's not sex to us, even though it is. I mean,
Mm.
parts of plants, how they pollinate, bees helping pollinate, it's yeah.
And plus, we're all sitting right here as a result of that. You know,
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
our 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 grandmas are here because our great grandparents had sex. Our
Mm-hmm.
parents are here because our grandparents had sex. You know, we're here because our parents had sex. If we have children, they're here because we were having sex. You know, and
Right.
you know, babies. And so, yeah, that's a lovely point. You know, it's, what was I going to say? I got lost in what you're saying. I forgot what I was going to say, um, about just about it, that it's going on everywhere around us. Yeah. And I know what it was. It was the covering of the women's breasts. I always, something I always say, like the first step when you can see that the colonizers have changed societies, especially indigenous societies in warm places. What is the first thing they do with when the
Yeah.
missionaries and the first thing they do is they cover our chest.
Yeah,
You
for sure.
know, it's like one of the first signs of oppression. And you know, you see these pictures of, I think it was the British, and if someone knows better, correct me. But when they first, it might have been Dutch. I'm not sure if it was British or Dutch, but when they first began colonizing Tahiti, you see these women, and it's hot, and they're wearing these huge dresses now, when before they had no huge dresses. Um, it's just like it's one of the first things that is done to cover the chest, and it's really nonsensical. um,
For sure. For sure.
um,
Talking
uh,
about like generations and being born, it's like even photos that I see on Instagram from birthing accounts, it's like
mm,
the birth itself is censored, and yeah. So it's like, click if you'd like to see this I don't know what word they use, but essentially offensive photo or vulgar photo of just like
wow.
having seeing like a baby, like a newborn baby coming out of the womb was so beautiful, and it being filtered. Then you almost have to wonder, like, what is the reasoning for that? You know,
Yeah.
whether it's like, I don't know, like to prevent a conversation from happening, or rather like not to incite a conversation.
Mm.
Mm, maybe what I
Um,
should think about for censoring.
yeah. Yeah. Someone once said, and I want to say this is, oh, I cannot remember who said this, because on Instagram, I think there's several people that have said it, but the vagina is a vortex between universes, is between the
I
spirit world and this
totally,
world we're in here, you know?
totally.
Um, yeah. So, you know, something I've had a chance to travel, and I'm very grateful for that. And I speak Spanish fluently. And so, especially when I was traveling in Caribbean places, and some I stayed in Cuba for a while. I was there for, a good chunk of time living and stayed with families. But the kind of colonialism or settler colonialism that exists in the U.S. is, or I guess it must be very similar to British. That's all I can think of. Or maybe it's something new in of itself that has to do with Puritan, but it's really repressed. I mean, it really is very repressed. Um, like, for example, the type of clothing and display of sexuality, display of what they would call sexual acts, that is allowed and okay in public in places where there's children and elders and everybody is like way broader. For example, when I was in Havana, what was okay to be doing and what was just part of society. And but the interesting thing was a lot of the what's considered there was less of this kind of porn stuff going on. Hi, Matt. Because things were open and people didn't have to hide sexuality. Everything wasn't as hidden and forbidden for men and women. So it was really much healthier um, expression of that. And so I noticed, the kind of peekaboo, you like they've got these little things where you can look at women's breasts through a little hole or just that kind of stuff, which if you think about is a little weird. Like, why do you need to go? Why does it have to be hidden? So a lot of those kind of things didn't exist because it would seem silly to people that you would have to do such a thing.
Yeah.
Um, so it was, it was interesting I'm glad I got to witness that and realize that, oh, some of the censorship that we have here also is very much like embedded in Puritan kind of stuff. It's really, I mean, it's really prudish, and
It's
yeah, it's very strong. And I don't know, I didn't realize that until I left. Um, yeah.
Yeah, it must
Mm,
be so nice to have that perspective, a firsthand
mm,
experience and perspective of that.
mm.
Yeah. Um, I think that ideally we would be living with our family or community like in like a small situation, and maybe families would share houses together, and then it would be inevitable that that would be happening. And you know, there's like a confidence and comfort around that, like growing up around it and like being exposed and like not feeling shame and not feeling like um, you have to hide or you have to do it hidden. Um, yeah.
Hello, Shiogo Stai. Yay. Yes, that's very true. Like you said, there's something about everyone being there and not having to hide. Yeah, there's something for those of you that just came on, we're talking about censorship. I'm here with Sydney. Um, Sydney is a wonderful activist, artist, cook, and maker of beautiful things, a friend of plants and a planter of plants. And we're here talking about censorship, self-censorship, censorship from the man or the woman, censorship from organizations, and censorship as a way to fit in and keep up in society. Um, so, yeah, I don't know what else. You mentioned something here. It says deviance is no filter. What do you mean? What I was wondering about that. So let me just clarify. Sydney sent me questions. She was very prepared. So censorship in regard to self-censoring, not being our full selves, and then censorship as a way to fit in and keep up in society. Deviance is no filter. What did you mean by that one?
So the deviance is no filter is kind of like having no filter, not being self-centered is deviance, and that is like breaking away from society. So like, I mean, that is having your hair the way you want to have your hair, like dressing the way you want to dress, protesting against anything, everything, um, planting, but more in the sense of protesting self-expression, Yes.
And so that when you said deviance is not a filter, like what does that mean to you?
So it was the way that I typed it out was more of like a really quick like note taking thing. So it was really no filter is deviant.
Ah, I see what you're saying. Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. I, in case you all hadn't guessed, am using a filter. I like my filter though.
I like your filter
Um,
too.
yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's funny what deviance can be depending on where you are, you know, and then depending on what that means to you. I was thinking about when, because I grew up in a college town, uh, so there was this idea about things that they had to have like really intellectual, there needs to be a lot of intellectual value behind things and, you know, clogs and crocs and Birkenstocks and not not too fancy, you know, that kind of whole vibe going on. And
Totally.
so for me, that meant if I wanted sparkles and rhinestones and uh, lights and smoke, you know, that is deviant for me, you know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. But for someone maybe if they were raised in certain towns in Texas where you have to wear makeup to go to the mailbox and they didn't, you know, they didn't want it, that wasn't them. That wasn't part of their way they wanted to express themselves in the world to be completely natural and to not do anything. That is their deviance. You know, that is their,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. So, hmm, it's
Yeah.
interesting. Hmm. Do you think that censorship and abiding by censorship is a way of keeping safe? Do you think that it keeps not safe from like uh, wayward living or whatever people want? Not even that context, but like socially safe. Do you think? What are your thoughts about the value of that or not value? I mean, I think that it does exist. There's some safety for people in not having to think about not conforming and just going ahead and conforming. Um, and I think what I think that sometimes some folks might not even question it. You know, may either they weren't taught to question, they have so much going on in their lives, or that they're having to deal with the idea of questioning their clothes or hair or what they say is just too much, you know, because there's too much other trauma and crap going on, too much work. And then I think maybe some folks have questioned, and then the pushback, this is me, was so much, you know, that they
Yeah.
were like, oh, hell no, I'm not doing that again, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that?
I definitely do think that there's a safety with conforming or a safety in self-censoring.
Hmm.
Um, just I mean I think that it's easier to live that way, especially with the example that you gave being in a college town where maybe like um, the attitude was kind of like go to class mode, like very casual and just kind of like that. And so if you wanted to be, um, accepted by these people at face value, dressing
Hmm.
like them is going to, be the first step in that, like of like them feeling safe or feeling comfortable to befriend you. But
Hmm.
one of the last parts you said about like whether or not it's a choice and whether people um, they they just play it safe for convenience. I guess it's maybe the same thing of just being easy, but maybe it comes from a different place of like you mentioned trauma or just their life is so much is going on that
Hmm.
it's not much of a thought. um, that's understandable. Shit happens, like everything. But Yeah, I do think that it's a safe place to be. Um,
Mm.
hmm hmm And
Yeah.
when, oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. The point about like a person that is maybe curious to deviate from the norms and kind of like let themselves be free in a big way and then gets backlash and then kind of like internally draws back and reels it in. I think that that's really common too.
Mm. Yeah. Um, it is. It makes me wonder how, oh, can you still hear me?
Hmm hmm
Oh, good. Okay. Now it makes me wonder how many folks, what people are really like. You know, how many people are feel censored, you know, and how many people are censoring themselves. And, you know, as a shout out to, uh, you know, our trans and non-binary folks, um, who in some ways bear the brunt or understand that more deeply and more, what's the way I want to say, you know, it's a kind of life or death way, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, you know, I have found people who are able to be themselves, who, you know, who may not fit into the whatever binary that doesn't actually exist, that there has been, that there is, you know, really inspirational, because, you know, you have people that talk about losing that may have lost their entire family
yeah,
or
yeah,
their entire town, their entire uh, network, and may actually have whose life might be in danger simply because of refusing to conform and refusing to censor their actual what they who they are as a human. And so it's not a little thing, really. It's a huge thing. Um, you know, people who have known me might have said this before. I'm one of the things I really like about our traditional Cherokee ways is that our way of living was set up in a village or town system where everyone had a very important role. The way it was explained to me was that, you know, everyone had a title. There was like titles for, uh, you know, person that washes the floor, you know, person that
mm,
pushes the cart. I mean, I'm just making up these names, but the point is that everyone has a place and role and is of equal importance, and understanding that not just in word service, not just saying everyone is important and that's a little law we made, but no, literally everybody is important as an important in a full expression of themselves, not as conforming. Everyone is important in the full expression of themselves, and in that full expression of themselves, then they will fit into the whole for everyone's benefit. You know, I think about that as opposed to a system where um, they say it's individualistic, but I don't think so. I think it's kind of like be alone and conform. That's what I always say.
mm,
You know,
mm, mm.
that seems to do things alone and conform. That seems to be the current system. But yeah,
Yeah. Knowing someone, knowing them, and then having them knowing them, and then their strengths will lead to what they're supposed to be doing, and then it's like heightened and like celebrated. And so in the Cherokee Nation, is that something that is kind of the person chooses, or kind of the village chooses, and their role?
yeah. I will say first of all, we have three federally recognized tribes: Cherokee Nation, United Kituah Band, and Eastern Band of Cherokees in North Carolina. I'm not enrolled, so I'm not speaking for anybody but myself. And even if I was, I would still only be speaking for myself.
Mm, mm,
Um, so what I'm speaking of is our traditional as Cherokee people. That's pre-removal, pre-splitting up of the nations. um, is our government and town system,
Yes.
which, now that's not the system that, for example, the government, our official tribal governments do not run off of that system. So
Okay.
what I'm speaking of is our traditional government structure and our traditional town structure. But with the value that, yes, if you let someone else know, wait, hold on, I'm not speaking English right. If you let me know who you are, I'm going to listen to you and I'm going to observe you and I'm going to study you so that I will know who you are as a spirit and a being in this world. And that is how we will know what it is you're supposed to be doing, if that
Mm,
makes sense.
mm,
So one of the values of our values is not to treat somebody like um, you want to be treated. You treat them like they want to be treated.
mm,
So,
mm.
which requires learning, listening, and knowing somebody. So did that answer your question?
Totally, and more and more. I think that treating someone how they want to be treated is so important.
Hmm.
If you're a person that likes space and not, like space and like minimal conversation, but the person, around you likes a lot of conversation, likes, hey, what's up? Like every time you see them, kind of you have to work together. You have to work with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Um, and speaking of talking, I was like, I'm trying to make sure my idea was make these little chats so we don't talk too long. Um, but I wanted to ask you if you had anything else you wanted to add about censorship, or any of the folks that I see. I see Isaiah and I see Stephanie. Do any of you have any questions or comments or anything that you all would like to say about censorship, or any questions for us? I don't see any questions. How about you, Sydney?
I think I've said everything that I wanted to say, but I'm open to more conversation too.
Okay. Um, I think I have said, yeah, I think I've said everything that I want to say, and just, I guess I hope that there can be, when people are trying to break free from censorship, and I don't even know if that makes sense to say that, but when they're trying to either their own censoring, how we censor ourselves based on how we were raised, and maybe we're self-censoring and there's not even anybody holding anything over us. It's just a kind of instilled
Totally.
fear.
Yes, yes.
It's like some people I know uh, that they thought they were hiding, but the rest of us saw them all along. That kind of, there's
Yes, yes.
there's self-censorship like that, and then there is serious censorship that people are dealing with. I think I want to say it was Myanmar. There's artists that their work they would have been in prison for life if they did their comedy because it was questioning the government. There's that kind of censorship.
Totally.
There's
Totally.
people that cannot, uh, men that cannot kiss in public or they might get executed. There's that kind of censorship. And then there's, if you decide to wear clothes that bare your flesh, your entire community will not speak to you anymore. There's all kinds of levels of censorship and things that people can lose. But I just hope that there are support systems and places where people can be safe and be themselves. I hope those places just grow and grow and grow and grow. Uh, yeah, that's what I hope.
I hope for that too, most definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that if we were all able to freely be ourselves, whether or not, like you said, there's something being held over our heads, then we could all do what's best for us. And if we're really doing what's best for us, then we're doing what's best for the earth, for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to, whether for better or for worse, right? For whatever it is we're not bringing, it's hard to create something and work with something if you don't know what you're working with, if we're just kind of working with half of ourselves and bits of ourselves. So, you know, things will come to the surface somehow or another, and if not always in a good way, right?
For sure, for sure.
So, yeah. Thank you, Sydney.
Thank you, Maura.
Yes. Well, thank you everybody who's come in, people who stayed and people who had to leave. And I think this will be, I'm going to go ahead and post this then, if that's okay with you.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope you have a beautiful day. I am sitting here in my coat because I'm cold. I hope it's warm there.
It's not warm, but it's warm
Oh,
here.
that's good.
And have a good day, Maura.
Okay, you too. Take care.